Hey, everybody. We're going to start here in just a minute. Over on the right-hand side of your screen, you're going to see a poll. If you guys could just take a moment and answer those questions, that would be great. And then we're just going to kind of chill out here for a second until we get the backlog of people who are actually in the waiting room joining us. So just be back in a minute. All right. So what we're going to end up doing here is we're going to talk today about the importance of really quantity over quality. Now, in our industry for the longest time, we have really just paid attention to the law of large numbers. Many people who were who started off, especially in insurance, it was all about numbers, right? It's the rule of tens, and we've all heard that for over and over and over. But things have fundamentally changed, and many of you have heard us say this before, but it just bears to repeat. Marketing has fundamentally changed. You have to market to your ideal client and prospects and the medium they prefer while they're there with organic content. And what you're doing nowadays is you're building a relationship with them before they ever come in. And we're going to spend a lot of time talking about that today. Lead generation it doesn't create any sort of long-term lasting relationships. What it does is it just creates buying units, right? It creates people that you can sell stuff to, but the probability of them referring, the probability of them becoming fans, the probability of them becoming great clients is very, very, very low. Now, some of you might be saying, well, Matt, I bought a lead once and it ended up being my best client I ever had. Well, that's an outlier and actually pretty much an anomaly. And you can't market to anomalies. You have to market to exactly who you want to market to. And we want to make it so that you're going to attract the right people. And then finally, we're going to talk about fans versus skeptics. So here's the deal. You have a choice. You have a choice to market to your ideal clients. You have a choice of who is going to show up at your office ready to purchase, ready to utilize your services, ready to consume your thought leadership. You have a choice. You don't have to have this happy face scale. You don't have to have that. All you have to have is the opportunity to position yourself with the right people. And then honestly, you just chill out and wait and use a system that continuously works for you through the whole process. Now, I'm going to go ahead and start this next poll here so that you guys can take a second here. And if I can, and so this one is a little bit different, and I'd like everybody to take a look at this. This is what are you primarily focused on from a marketing perspective? Those people are on the webinar right now, and those of you who are watching the replay, just make a note of this because how you're bringing in business right now is very important for you to pay attention to. Because again, I want you to understand that you have a choice, and you also don't have to do things in isolation. If you're doing webinars right now, if you're buying leads right now, if you're, asking for referrals, whatever you're doing to build your business, you can continue to do that at the same time that you're doing very targeted and focused marketing. It's not an either or. It can be an and the more ands you have in place, the more powerful it's going to be. So what does success look like, right? So a lot of you have always measured your success off of more clients, more revenue, and a larger team. Like, oh my gosh, I've hired X amount of people and I employ so many people within my community. And you know what? That's freaking awesome. But do you really need all of those people? And the more people you have, really the less profitable you're going to be. And the more chaotic your life is going to be. But if you do the quality route, If you focus very specifically on that ideal client, and you can close your eyes right now and say, Matt, I know exactly who I want to market to. This is my favoriteest client in the whole wide world. I'd love to be able to get my message right in front of them. So when they're ready to purchase, I'm going to be the person they call. And that's really this quality idea. You're going to be way more profitable. You're going to have a smaller team. You're going to have less clients. And what we didn't write here is you're actually going to have more fun because you're going to be hanging out with people that, you know what, you enjoy hanging out with. What's wrong with that? I think it's absolutely fantastic for you to be able to show up to work and be like, hey, I'm meeting with John and Jane Schmuckatelli, and they're my favorite people in the whole wide world, and I absolutely love spending time with them. That's the sort of stuff that you have that choice. Please think about that. You have a choice here, and it's a conscious choice that you need to make. Now, I cannot tell you how many times, and this is going to be depressing for some of you, but it's going to be eye-opening to other of you. So here's the thing. I want you to think about how many of your existing team members, not clients, team members have referred all of their friends and family to you. I was working in an office a long time ago when I was a consultant. And I used to do these on-site consultations, which were really, really intense, right? So I'm meeting with a team, and I ended up doing some advisory council stuff, and I'm meeting with the advisor, and I'm sitting down with the team leader of this office, and I said, hey, have you ever referred your significant other to this advisor so that this advisor can be your significant other's advisor? And she said, hell no, I wouldn't do that. And oh my gosh, it was like a kick in the mouth, right? I was like, wow. And she said, I know what it's like behind the scenes here. I would never want to expose him to the chaos, right? That is our practice here. So when you're really looking at quantity, not only are you creating a chaotic environment for you, but your team, which is going to breed internal skepticism, which is nowhere near as bad as external skepticism. When, somebody sees you walk down the road, or you're at the mall, or you're at the gym, or you're at church, or whatever, and they say, oh, that's that guy who's a financial advisor, he just tries to sell you stuff, or he or she works with absolutely everybody. Well, we don't want that, right? What we want is somebody that is truly going to engage you as a human being, that they know that you work with people just like them. But think about that, man. Isn't that terrible? If you want a firm that's so chaotic and your systems stink and your marketing stinks and really none of your team can communicate who you are and what you do that makes you unique and different, the probability of them referring you, their friends and family is really, really low. And for those of you who are now sitting back and saying, oh my God, why hasn't my team leader or why hasn't my admin, receptionist, operations person referred any of their family or friends to me? It's time to really look in the mirror, and we believe that you can solve that with good marketing on the front end. Because what quality does is it breeds focus, right? It allows you to have the team who lives and breathes what you do every day go out and talk about how great it is to work in your firm. Zappos is a great case study in business, because one of the things that they want is, if you work at Zappos, they want you to be Zappos wherever you are, whenever you are. They want you to be so happy about being an employee of the company that when you're out and about and you see somebody's shoes, the first thing you're going to think of is, did they buy those at Zappos, right? The other thing that it's really, really important when it comes to breeding focus is not just the internal aspects of it, but most financial advisors love control, right? This is one of the reasons we hire you. I want a highly detail-oriented, controlling person managing my finances. But if you're only doing quantity, guess what? You're not going to have the quality, and you're going to be living in that chaotic world. You don't have the control that you want over what's coming in through your pipeline. Think back to that slide of the sad face, medium face, happy face. If you get happy face people coming into your practice all the time, and you know it's predictable, and you know what their issues are, and you can have their paperwork done because you know that this client looks just like this before they get in. Your onboarding is faster. Your communication is faster. You're going to be able to wow them, and make them so much happier that they're clients of yours. They're proud to be clients of yours, and they're proud to tell their friends and family about you, including your staff. That's what quality does. Now, We're going to talk about the 4 ways that we here at Top Advisor Marketing have communicated for a long time. I learned this from Kirk. Many of you have read lots and lots of his stuff. You've heard us on the podcast. But we're going to talk about the 4 ways that you can truly increase your quality over quantity. Number 1, it's all about attraction, right? When you have a very clear and succinct message and a very clear and succinct target market, you're going to get more referrals. It's just easier. But you have to do that through being omnipresent and ever present with content. And as you can see the poll over here, we've got some people who are doing most of the above. We've got other people who are doing podcasting, video blogs, and stuff like that. And so that's the whole kicker here. What do we need to do to be ever present and omnipresent? And what you need to think about is very, very simple. What am I good at? Right? Do you love social media, right? Do you love taking pictures? If you love taking pictures and writing little things about your pictures, then you should be on Pinterest or Instagram, right? If you love writing, blog. If you love podcasting, podcast. If you love videos, get on YouTube, get on TikTok, use social media wherever your ideal client is. But it all starts there, because you can't attract something unless you truly know what it is. Now, I'm from Michigan, as many of you guys know, and we have a Canadian company, and I'm about as close to being a Canadian as you can in the States. And I've got a whole bunch of friends of mine who hunt. And, at different times of year, they have different ways to hunt or different things to hunt, deer season, turkey season, bow season, so that you can get deer at a couple of different times, but bird hunting, duck hunting. And so here's the fun part, right? If I'm going to go out into the woods and I'm going to be hunting for deer, but I'm dressed like I'm hunting turkey, I'm not going to find deer. Or I might find a deer, but I'm definitely not going to be attracting the deer because I'm not going to be using the things that deer like. Same thing with your marketing for those of you out there who are hunters. Next, you have to have a way to intrigue them, to get their attention, right? This is that kind of like the digital handshake. Like, what do you stand for? Do you have something that you firmly believe in, especially when it comes to financial services? Are you against something? Or do you hate tactical advisors? Do you hate life insurance? Do you love annuities? Do you hate annuities? Do you love dimensional funds? Are you a total buy and hold person? Do you not care? Are you fee only? And the only thing that you want to do is to be able to provide advice. You don't manage the money. Are you an ETF person? You have to stand for something. And when you stand for something, then your clarity of your message gets people's attention. And then you start intriguing people who have a like mind. Again, a choice. You also have to have a clear why. Why are you doing this? And we believe that, either doing podcasting or video, if you use our friends at Idea Decanter for your video, they're going to pull the same stuff out of you that we try to do in our audio, and they'll do with video. And they're going to ask you your why. Why are you a financial advisor? Why are you doing this? Tell me your story. You have to get your story out there. Please try to connect with people. Get it so that they feel like they already know you. And that's really where this intrigue is. So I have to attract them by using the right stuff in the right situation where they want to be to get their attention, which is my intrigue. And then the next thing I want to do is I want to engage them. And this is where the content is the most important piece. Any content you can put out on a consistent manner that is not canned content written by somebody else is going to make all the difference in the world. Because here's what happens. And I remember this in my old consulting days. My clients would send out a weekly market commentary. And that was their weekly piece of communication. And then when the clients would come in, they'd be like, well, hey, Jane, the market is down XX and I'm down BB. What's going on? But you're a financial planner and you're a long-term buy and hold person, or maybe you're a Warren Buffett value investor, or maybe, heck, you're not even focused on the markets at all because you do guaranteed income. They're not coming in talking to you about the right stuff because you're not putting the right stuff out. You have to communicate your expertise. You have to communicate your personality, and you have to communicate what makes you unique and different. And the only way to do that is to be ever present, omnipresent, by using engagement tactics where you're going to be able to engage your ideal audience with the stuff that they read and they say, yep, you know what, Matt, that's me. I like that person because that person's just like me and they're talking to me because they want to help me. And then the last piece is this convince and convert, which we refer to as influence. How many steps do you have before somebody says yes? Right? Opt into a podcast, opt into a video series, opt into a white paper, opt into a weekly blog, opt into your newsletter. Maybe they're able to come to a webinar, right, where you're going to educate them on who you are, what you do, and what makes you unique and different. Maybe you're going to do a webinar or a seminar on Social Security because that's your focus. You're going to want to be known as the person who solves Social Security issues. What do you have before you say yes? Because here's the thing, everybody. Dating is what you're doing here, right? You have to do small talk. A lot of you have probably been with your significant other or significant other plural for many years. Some of you don't even remember what it's like to date. Some of you don't even remember what to do to make friends. But if you think back when you were a kid, you were on the playground or whatever, the first thing you had to do was you had to say hi, and you had to do it in a way that wasn't really uncomfortable and make the other person uncomfortable, right? So that's the attract aspect of it. Or even better, when you are presenting yourself in a way that makes people want to say hi to you. But in our world today, that's done digitally, and especially in the environment that we live in now, it's all done digitally. It's very, very difficult to go walk up to somebody right now and shake hands. Maybe you do the elbow bump or you do the wave from a distance, but it's really, really difficult to make that contact. And you have to make that contact digitally now, right? It can't be that you're going to just walk up, send out a mass mailing and have 45 people come in to your seminars anymore. It's not going to happen for a while. It doesn't matter if you like it or not. It's just the reality of the situation. So you have to do a digital handshake. You have to be able to say hi online, and you have to do it in the medium that your clients prefer or ideal clients prefer. And then after you get them to say hi, you have to give them lots of free stuff and education and lots of opportunity to get to know you, which is that intrigue and engage. And then finally, you have to find a nice, gentle way for them to say yes to you without you having to really hard sell them, right? We had a client recently who just started his podcast. And the first 4 to 6 podcasts are really who you are and what you do and what makes you unique and different. And this advisor did a very, very good job of clearly stating his financial planning process, his onboarding process. And then he ended up sending it out, like we ask all of our clients to do, to his mailing list, his email list. And it was interesting because it was about 2-3 weeks later, and a person called him up and said, "Hey, I don't know if you remember me, but I came and met with you a year or two ago, and it wasn't the right time, but I wasn't really entirely sure you were the right fit. But after I listened to your podcast and heard about who you are, what you do, and what makes you unique and different, you are exactly who I want to work with, and I'd like to be able to come in and sign paperwork today." Has that ever happened to you? And if it has, how often has that happened to you? This was this person's ideal client, exactly who they wanted to work with, because their content, their messaging was just that, talking directly to them. You work with people like me. You don't work with everybody. You work with people like me. Find little ways through nurture sequences, through email, through opt-in to podcasts, to downloading a white paper, to getting on. The more yeses we get, the easier it's going to be for them to call you up and give you a yes when they're ready to transfer their assets. Now, you've heard about funnels forever, but funnels are different now. This is not the same law of large numbers, 10,000 phone calls, 100 appointments, 10 people make those appointments and you get a yes, or whatever those numbers used to be. You need to pay attention to tofu, mofu, and bofu. And I love this idea because here's the kicker. No matter what you love to do, whether it's writing, whether it's video, whatever it is, right? You need to commit to that. We have a person who absolutely loves doing video. She's actually just a friend of ours. You've probably seen her all over the internet, especially on LinkedIn. She does a lot of stuff on cybersecurity, and she's great behind the camera. But you need to figure out where you're lacking in tofu, mofu, and bofu. So the top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel. I just put up another poll. So where do you think you need to improve? Do you need to improve with your blogs? Do you need to, just think about it. Where do you need to do that? And then think about the bottom of the funnel. What are you doing from a bottom of the funnel? Right? Are you having an interpersonal, like a very intimate meeting with them face to face? Which you can still do, right? Just keep your distance. I went ahead and we do obviously a lot of top of the funnel, middle of the funnel stuff, but for Top Advisor Marketing here, we don't really do a lot of, really one-on-one stuff because we're an international company and we're a virtual company. But very recently, I just met with somebody who's in my network, and she had reached out to me and she said, "Hey, I just love to get caught up." She's a sales manager, regional sales manager for a water company. And I'm talking to her about this sort of stuff, and she already understands who we are and what we do. So that's really the tofu mofu. And then I was, really going through the bofu aspect, which is really this conversion and talking to her. And I asked her, I said, how much do you guys spend a month in marketing? And she's like, "Oh, we spend probably $15,000 to $20,000 a month." And, they do TV, they do radio, they do, they drive these trucks around and they do mailers and all of those sorts of stuff. And I was like, "Well, what's your lead gen look like?" She's like, "Yeah, it stinks." Because most of what I need to do is, I need to, we got people still cold calling people. But what I do is I go into my existing relationships and I talk to them and try to not just upsell them, but I also try to talk to them about who they might know that truly needs what we do, because I use an education approach. And I talked to her about podcasting and our social media. And then I told her how much it was. And she just started laughing and said, "You do all of that for, like a third of what we pay every single solitary month." And I said, "Look, I'm not saying that you have to replace what you do with what we do, but you as financial services professionals are really no different. Most of you have hundreds of people in your book of business that if you even went through, improving tofu or mofu, right? Which would be going back to them, giving them stuff that makes it very simple, really simple to refer you. Nobody wants to do the who do you know thing anymore, right? Nobody wants you to say, "Hey, will you please tell your friends and family about me and tell them that they can come in for a free complimentary consultation or a portfolio stress test." Man, that's really invasive. Like, I don't even know you. You haven't done the digital handshake. You haven't done the things that I need you to do in order to make it so that I trust you enough for you to even look at my stuff. And that's what this whole funnel really is. But if you're using quantity over quality, then your tofu is going to be all over the place. And then when you get to the bofu, which is your conversion, guess what? You're going to have so many people that you're trying to convert that aren't ideal clients. It just wastes an enormous amount of time. But if you escalate it, if you do it through a proven and a really good system, what you're going to find is this is way, way smoother. Your engagement is way better. And the people you're attracting are going to go right back to that first slide, which is the happy face people, which you're going to be happy as an advisor. And guess what? Your prospects are going to be happier because when they sit down with you, you're already going to know so much about them that you can have the conversation that you want instead of having to educate them in those first 3 meetings. I know advisors who have a 5-meeting close process because they've got to do all of this education on the front end about who they are and what they do and why they're unique and different. Guess what? You can take care of all of that with these digital handshakes. Try to figure this out. Then when you get to that bottom of the funnel and you're sitting there and you're sitting right across from this person and you just say to yourself, "I'm going to be happy this person's a client, not for revenue, but for the ideas that you share with them that you have in common." So I see it looks like a lot of you really do want to work on the top of your funnel. There's some really great ways to do that. Again, if you love to write blog, if you love to talk podcast, if you love video, do video. Make sure your website's great. Make sure that you have good infographics so that it's visually appealing for people to understand. Make sure that they can sign up for your newsletter. Make sure that they can opt into your video series. And if you want to, get some PR going, get in your local newspapers, get on your local television, get on your local radio stations, whatever you're most comfortable with. But more importantly, where your ideal clients are, that's where you need to go for that top of the funnel awareness so that the rest of the stuff can actually happen. Now, I'm going to take just a minute to talk a little bit more about this MOFU thing, because I love the fact that Kirk refers to this as evaluation. Because even if my top of the funnel is really big, and of course you want your middle of the funnel to be smaller and then the bottom of your funnel to be really, really, really ideal, your MOFU needs to help them qualify themselves. It used to make me laugh when seminar companies used to pay another company, or you used to pay a seminar company to pre-qualify people before they come in, because you're mailing to zip codes and that's not always perfect. Could you imagine? I mean, personally, man, if you called me up and said, hey, you're going to be attending this Ruth Chris dinner. We only work with people who have over $250,000 of investable assets. Do you have $250,000 of investable assets? I'm going to tell you, go away. And I know my generation is, and we're going to have more assets than really most other generations. We're going to be inheriting so much. And I think I've said this many times before, especially on our podcast, but none of you are marketing to Generation X, which makes no sense to me whatsoever, because most of us are really terrified of what's going on, and we could really, really use advice. But the MOFU aspect, if I'm looking through your stuff and it's not talking to me, I'm not going to call you. That's great. Because if I'm not your ideal client, guess what? I'm not your freaking ideal client. Okay. But if your MOFU stuff, your checklists, your book, your courses, your podcast, your mini series really dive into who you are and what makes you unique and different and who you work with, then I'm going to self-select. I'm going to say, oh my gosh, that Jessica is the greatest financial advisor I've never met. And I need to meet her because she works with people just like me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sign up for their webinar. I'm going to sign up for this. And then, you know what? I think I'm going to feel a little bit more comfortable emailing them and saying, hey, I'd love to have a chance to talk with you a little bit more. And that content is king. This has been beaten into the ground, but it's all about making sure that you have quality content, not quantity content, but you have to do it consistently. If you want to be like this rocket here, which I guess my face is covering up, and if you want to shoot for the moon, you're never going to get there thinking the way that you thought today. When people were preparing to go to the moon or Mars, they had to fundamentally change and shift their philosophy. They had to make it so that they looked at math differently. They had to look at different things. And your business is no different. What do you need to shift in order for you to make and convince yourself that I want only these people to work with? I'm going to be more profitable. I'm going to have a better time. I'm not going to have to weed through so much schmucky stuff in order to find those right people, because all of my messaging supports that. You can be wicked specific, or you can be moderately specific. What do you want to do? Saying that you work with women, that's not a niche, because that's 51% of the population. In fact, that's the majority. I only want to work with people who are retiring. Well, that's pretty much everybody in the United States at some point, hopefully in their life. Or you can say, I want to work with small business owners in Southwest Michigan who face these compensation issues or tax issues. Now we're talking. So when you're doing your blogs or your videos or your podcasts and you're talking to that person, somebody like me who's an independent business owner is going to look at you and listen and say, wow, that person's really providing me with a lot of value. I feel really comfortable listening. I feel really comfortable that they know who I am. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to opt into their stuff. And the more stuff I say yes to, the easier it's going to be for me to say yes to you when you want me to transfer assets. All right. So I'm going to switch this back over to Jen. Jen, do we have any questions? Doesn't look like we do so far, do we?
Not so far. I just asked everybody to write their questions. Wonderful. If they had any.
So if you do, I'm just going to take a second as I wrap up here and type your questions into the chat. Thank you for those of you who answered the polls. We appreciate that. We like that fun engagement, through these presentations. But it is a choice. You have the choice. What is the choice? The choice is for you to choose to market to your ideal client and prospect in the medium they prefer while they're there with original content. Who is that ideal person? I want you to think about it not just from a demographic standpoint, but also a psychographic standpoint. If you close your eyes right now and you say, hey, I want this person to ride in this rocket with me, what do they look like? What do they do? What do they wear? What kind of car do they drive? Do they have a boat? Do they have a plane? Do they like whiskey? Do they like mountain biking? Do they like fishing? I don't care what it is. But if you write down those ideal things and you can say, man, you know what? I don't really have a lot of those, but I do feel very, very comfortable working with those people and it made me very happy. That's what you want to write down. Jen, I see that Bob has a question. How long have we been doing this? I'm assuming this would be our podcasting and social media system. We've been doing it for 2.5 years now. We've produced over 1,000 podcasts for financial services professionals all over North America. And this is actually how Kirk and I have successfully grown the Top Advisor Marketing Company to over $1 million in revenue within the first 24 months. So we know that this system works. It's a great system. It's very easy. We pretty much try to do as much as we can for you. But Bob, thank you very much for asking the question. If anybody else has any questions, please go ahead and put it in there. But again, it's just about choice. Who is your ideal client? In fact, I don't even want anybody to call us. I don't want you to email me. I don't want you to do anything along those lines until you can clearly and succinctly tell us who exactly you want to work with and who, if you saw a person's name on your agenda for tomorrow, that you would be really happy to see them. That's who you want. I want those people. In fact, the clients that I work with here at Top Advisor Marketing, which are less and less as we get busier and busier. But when I see I've got a Nepsis Invest with Clarity podcast or the Planning for Life podcast or the Retirement Solution podcast, these podcasts that I do, I'm excited. I know who these people are. They're ideal clients for us. They understand how content is king and how important it is to make it so that you communicate to your ideal clients using a medium they prefer. I love interviewing them. I love hearing their thought leadership. And I know that if I love that, been doing this for 10 years in financial services, that the clients are going to love it too. So thanks for the compliment there, Bob. We appreciate it. And if there's anything that we can do for you, we'd love to help. But Jen, I think if we don't have any more questions, we'll wrap up today's webinar. I just wanted to hard and fast, everybody. These are the 4 things that you need to do to make it so that you truly can change how you attract, intrigue, engage, and influence people. Get that top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, and the bottom of the funnel, filling up with the right people, not crap tons of people. Just people who you want and who you like and who you'd like to work with. Bob asked a great question, Jen. Do you want to read that?
Yes, Bob's wondering, what did you discover didn't work for you?
And that's wonderful. What a great question. So what didn't work for us personally was Facebook. But it does work for advisors because that's where your ideal clients are. A lot of our clients really focus on LinkedIn, Bob. So we focus on trying to attract, intrigue, engage, and influence the ideal decision makers on LinkedIn based off your ideal client profile. But the other thing that we are now focusing again on is doing some more Facebook stuff because we're finding that more and more advisors are able to utilize the content multiplication system that we have in order to, again, talk to those people on Facebook. Facebook's a little harder of a nut to crack, and to be brutally honest, we didn't do it well at the beginning, but we have a much better solution for it now and feel very, very comfortable with it. We know a lot of people who really focus on Twitter because they're working with younger, more affluent, 35 to 45-year-olds. Twitter works very, very well. And then if you're going to be focusing on a much younger demographic, if you do college planning or if you're doing 529s and things like that, Instagram, Pinterest, and TikTok are magnificent, and we can actually consult you on that. We do a little bit of work with Instagram, but those are some things that we've dipped our toes in the water, and we're always trying to find ways to provide better really attraction techniques for our clients. So with that, Bob, just go ahead. If you have any questions, you can actually email me directly at matt@topadvisorm.com or connect with me on LinkedIn specifically. I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. But everybody, thank you for taking some time with us today. I hope you're having a great and safe summer. And if you have any questions, please check us out at topadvisormarketing.com, or you can connect with Kirk or me on LinkedIn, Kirk Lowe at linkedin.com and Matt Halloran at LinkedIn. Or just go ahead and you can email either of us, Kirk Lowe or Kirk at topadvisorm or Matt at topadvisorm.com. And we'll see you next month for the next webinar.